Hello friend, in this video I am going to explain how we can use multiple data source in a Spring Boot application which use Spring Data JP. So in this section you should have one question like where we can use this multiple data source. So let's think, your Spring Boot applications should use two database in same instance to save different data set. In that case, we can give Spring Data JP a chance to identify multiple data source, and Data JP will use the data source connection to access the different databases. So in that case, you need a mechanism where Data JP will automatically know that which data source they have called. So for this example, firstly I will show you the pom.xml where I use some dependencies like Spring Data JPA, Spring Boot Starter Web, MySQL, Project Lombok, and test is a by default one. So in this case, we need two data source. So in our case, we are just using a MySQL instance for the two data sets. So that's why I only use the MySQL connector here. If you have another project, one data source is a MySQL, another is a Oracle or PostgreSQL or any other. So that library you have to define in this pom.xml. Then after you have to create a package. Let's suppose I'm creating a package name, create a scenario. We will take an example of college and student. So in this case, firstly, let me add, before creating the package, let me add some data source details in the application.property file. And here you will see I use the spring data source.student.url, and this data source is for the student and this one is for the college. And this is the schema which I will provide you with this repository, and GitHub URL will be provided in the description section, so no worry about the code. So let's jump into the code now. So let's create a package, and here first one is a college and another one is a student. So let me first create a package for that. So student. Then inside the college we have to create an entity, college entity. So let me create a package entity here. Same for the student also. So let me create an entity for the student. We will do the this is a normal scenario where you can use that. So in the entity we have to just create one class name as a college. Same for the student, we have to follow. So create a student, and inside the college these are the some attributes of the college here. Same for the student also. Student ID, student name, student age. Now let's create the repository for the college and the student. So let me create a package, remove the entity here, add the repository. Same thing we have to do with the student. So create a package, remove the entity, add the repository, and create the repository inside this package. So this one would be college repository, and we have to extend JPA repository and provide the college and teacher. Let me import that. So college, and yeah, it should be interface. I forgot to copy there. So same thing we have to implement with this. So Java interface and student repository extends JPA repository, and inside this JPA repository just provide the student and integer. So this is the basic thing which we defined. Now the main thing which you need the focus. So now let's create one package name as a configuration. So in the configuration we have to create a separate class for the college and for our student. So our JPA can be identify which data source they have to call when they are calling the entity or repository. So let's create a class and give the name is college data source configuration. Because this is a configuration, so we have to annotate it with the configuration. It will be managing the transaction, so we have to enable the transaction management. Then the another annotation would be the enable JPA repository, which you can see here, enable JPA repository. Inside the JPA repository, we have to define the base package. So base package, and inside it, we have to provide the repository for the college. So inside this college, this is the repository path. Let me refactor this, click on the rename, copy this package and provide here. So we provide that this configuration would be taken the repository from this package. Then after, there is a two more parameter in this method, but we will define later. So let's move ahead, and here we have to create a for bean here. So you just have to remember the thing, you have to create a for bean. First bean should be a data source property, then second bean will define the data source, then we have to create a entity manager factory bean, and at the last we have to create a transaction manager bean. So let's create a bean by using the bean annotation. And here, because college is a primary, so whenever we are using the multiple data source, so at that time we have to tell our GPA that this one is a primary. So here we will use the primary annotation also when we create the bean, and there we have to provide the configuration property, and in the configuration property we have to tell our GPA that this is the data source. Let's go inside this resource in the application.property. You will see this one is a data source for our college. So let's copy this and paste inside it. So spring data source dot college. This one is our configuration property. Now let's create a method public and data source property, right? And here give any name, whatever name you want. So in this case we just use college data source property. Then just return new data source property, right? Then after, you have the first thing is completed where we define the data source property. Now we have to define the data source here. So let's create a bean first and then bean annotation, and then as I told you we have to use a primary here, then use the configuration properties, and inside the configuration dot property we have to provide this name from the properties and give configuration here, right? Then create a public and data source. There should be data source. So here you will see data source is coming from the javax.activation package and javax.sql. So you have to just remember that you have to use the javax.sql package. So data source, then college data source. Okay, and here we have to just return, we have to just copy this college data source property and dot, here we have to use the initialize data source builder, right? Then we have to provide the which type of data source we are using. So inside the type, because this is a data source JPA, so we have to use hikari data source dot class. Then at the last we have to just build that. So now we created our data source. Now our JPA is able to find that, but now we have to provide the entity manager and transaction manager bean. So let me create a bean for that. And now this is the third one, and this two is the important. So in the bean, just provide some name, and whatever name we will define here, that we will be defined in the enable JPA repository annotation. So let me give the name is a college entity manager factory. Okay, and this one should be primary, so provide the primary. And here we have to public local container entity manager factory bean, and college entity manager factory bean, or I just remove the bean here. So yeah, then we have to just in this method we have to pass one parameter, which should be entity manager factory builder, and this builder is from the Spring Boot Warren GPU. Then builder, and let me zoom it, you can easily see that. Then here we have to return builder dot, let me enter here, dot data source, and in the data source we have to provide this, because this is our data source. So call is data source, then enter dot, here we have to provide the package, right? So package, and here you have to provide the entity college dot class, right? And at the last just build it. Now we provide the entity manager factory and provide the name of the bean. So let's copy this and add here the entity manager. So if you will see here, if I will control space, so here you will see first one is the entity manager factory ref. So let me tab here and provide the name college entity manager factory. Then the last and fourth one is to transaction manager. So here let me create again the bean and provide the name, and name should be college transaction manager. Okay, then provide it a primary. Okay, then what error it's showing, let me see, annotation not allowed here. Okay, uh, let me provide the method here. So public, now in the transaction manager we have to use platform transaction manager. So platform transaction manager, the name is college transaction manager, and here we have to provide a local container entity manager factory bean here also. So we just use local container entity manager factory bean, provide the, let me control space, and container local container factory bean. Okay, now here what we have to do, it should be the final, it cannot be modifiable. So let me add the final, and we have to provide the qualifier here. So we will use a qualifier annotation, and inside the annotation we have to provide the college entity factory manager. So that thing we have to copy here and provide here entity manager factory, right? So this one is looking fine. So add the bracket and enter here. Now here just return new JPA transaction manager, and inside the parameter we have to use local container factory design factory b dot. Here we have to use get object. That's it. So this is the configuration for the college. The same thing we will do for our student. So let me create another configuration class, which should be, let me copy the name from here and create another class and just change it to student. Now we have to follow the same thing which we follow here. So let me copy this first. Okay, then we will make the necessary changes. So let me first copy this, then I will tell you what changes you have to require. So just add here. Okay, now in this case, if you will go inside the application.property, you will see the instead of college there is a student. So let me change it and Control F, mark all, and provide the student. It should be capital S. Everything looking fine, so we are good to go. Let me just verify everything. Okay, just remove that. So now I think we are good to go. So let me see. Okay, so our configuration is done. Now we have to create a controller, combined controller here. So let me minimize that here. Okay, and create another package, a controller, and inside the controller let me create a class combine controller. Any name you can provide there. Then let me create another one model class. So let me create a package and sorry model, and inside the model let me create a class name as a response. So inside the response we provide the response type of list of student and list of college here, right? And if you will see in the schema, we already insert some data in the college and in the student, right? So we provide here. So let's come back to the combined controller and just add the rest controller here. Okay, then we have to provide the repository using the auto-wire annotation. So first one is the college repository, then another one is a student repository. So just add there student repository, use the get mapping and just leave it a blank so we can directly use it. Okay, so public and response which we created here, and get response. Inside it just create an object of response is equal to new response, right? And just add the value. So response dot set college and college repository dot find all. Same thing we have to do for the student. So set student and student repository dot find all. So now everything is fine. Okay, now we have to return the response, right? Now let me run this program and see the output. So just go inside it and let's run that. So let me run this application and see the output. So localhost 8088 and run it. So you will see this student is coming from the student data source. If you will see the database, so student database and college database, these are the two databases which we created the schema, and the student details is coming from the student database and the college detail is coming from the college database. If you want to see, so you can see here, I will show you at all. So this one is the college which is coming here, Central College, Mahanama College, then Royal College, right? The same thing you can see in the student. So that select all, and here you will see Ranil, Anil and Sunil. So that is already added, Ranil, Anil, Sunil. So I think you know how to do that. So thank you for watching. So please, if you think this video is helpful for you, just share this video with your friend and subscribe my channel Java Puzzle and press the bell icon for more informative videos. Thank you.